Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at a comparison review of Lagavulin 18-year-old. I actually got this idea from my buddy Malt Muse, Eric, and Telex were doing a whiskey live stream and the other day, and they were saying, hey man, we got, Lagavulin 18, the Feis Ila bottling. And I said, which Lagavulin 18? And they said, well, I don't know. How many are there? Turns out, there's 3. And I have them all here for you. So, I want to tell you the difference between the 3 Lagavulin 18s, just in case you're able to get your hands on one, or if you're looking for a cask strength Lagavulin 18, I want to let you know what's currently out there. So, we'll get into the particulars, but let's just let me give you the broad strokes. The first one here is going to be Lagavulin 18, the 2018 Feis Ila. This one comes in at 53.9% ABV. And Lagavulin does a really good job on these specialty bottlings of telling you exactly what the wood type is here. So this particular one, the 2018 vintage, is refill American oak hogshead, rejuvenated American oak hogsheads, and ex-bodega European sherry butts. The second version of the 18 is the 2016, the 200th anniversary Feis Ila. This one comes in a little bit lower at 49.5%. This wood type is refill American oak hogsheads and European oak and ex-bodega sherry butts. So that is the information on there. The second one and the third 18-year-old we have here is the 2013 Jazz Fest bottle. This particular one is vintage 1995, bottled in 2013, comes in at 51.9% ABV, and the wood type here is just straight ex-sherry butts. So rejuvenated and American oak for the 18 and the 16, and for this 13 just straight sherry. Comes in a little bit different ABV on all of them, but basically, they're all cask strength whiskeys. So to show you a little bit about the color, both 18s from 2016 and 2018 are kind of a champagne-ish color. 2016 slightly darker than the 2018, but then this 2013 Jazz Fest is quite a bit darker. So you can tell the sherry cask influence in the Jazz Fest is the strongest. This is 2016. This is kind of in the middle as far as color, and the 2018 is definitely the lightest. So if you're a huge fan of Lagavulin, as I am, a lot of times these specialty wines are very hard to get your hands on, very, very limited releases. I believe this one had around 3,500 to 6,000 bottles, the same with this. The Jazz Fest actually only had 1,500 bottles made, and one distinction I'd like to make with this Jazz Fest bottle is there is 2 1995 vintage Lagavulins that are both bottled in 2013. One is the Jazz, and the second one is the Feis Ila. This is the Jazz. This is an 18-year-old whiskey because it was distilled and put into a barrel in January of 1995. Now, the Feis Ila version of the 2013-1995 vintage is actually a 17-year-old, and there are 3,000 of those bottles as compared to 1,500 of this one right here. So, a little bit of a distinction between the two. And, you can still find these every once in a while on auction sites and things of that nature. This year alone, well, it's March of 2021. In the last probably 5 months, I found 2 of these Jazz Fest bottles, and again, only 1,500 made, so it is still something to get your hands on. This happens to be bottle 1439. Okay, a lot of talking. All right, so let's get into the whiskey here and kind of tell what we think of the differences are between the 3 versions of the 18, because there is a fairly substantial difference between the 3. I'm going to move these up just slightly, just so I can get to the whiskey a little bit easier. Because I don't know if you saw the first time I grabbed the 2013, I kind of hit it with my arm, kind of recovered, but that could have been bad. All right, so we'll go this way. It's my right to left, it would be your left to right. So I like to keep it left to right for you guys as much as I possibly could. All right, so 2018 version of the 18. Meaty, smoky, Lagavulin. Nice mint notes come up on it. Now keep in mind, this is going to be a full review. I'm just going to give you quick hitters. Dustin and I will bring you each one of these individually. Again, I just saw Telex and Malt Muse give a nice little review on a live stream of this particular one, so I just wanted to show everybody the difference of the 18-year-olds. Because I have Lagavulins, and I want to tell you about them. But yeah, this 2018, big smoke, big, nice, medicinal smoke. I've had this open, I've had all of these open for months. So they've really kind of oxidized and kind of got to a really nice spot. I mean, you smell the sherry in this, definitely that meaty Lagavulin, mint, peach. Very, very 16-year-old on steroids, so to speak. All right, moving along to the 2016. Immediately you can tell there's more sherry influence. It smells older, even though they both have an 18-year-old age statement. Definitely not richer. A good buddy of mine from White Plains, New York, Mario, was a big fan of this 2016. He was the one that recommended highly that I get my hands on it. Not that I wasn't going to anyway, but you know, it's always nice when someone else that you highly respect as far as their whiskey opinions also speak highly about a whiskey before you get it. But yeah, this is definitely more sherry, almost more meaty of a Lagavulin. The mint notes are toned down, but they're replaced by some dark richness of fruit, maybe a fig or a date. And just again, smells older. It smells like there's definitely older whiskey in this one. Older, more aristocratic. All right, so moving on to the 2013 Jazz, 18-year-old. Boy, that is a ton more sherry in this one. As a matter of fact, if I go from this back to the 2018 version, it almost smells like the 18 version doesn't have hardly any sherry in it at all. It's almost like Lagavulin 12 compared to Lagavulin Distiller's Edition, so to speak. Or actually, on the nose, this is probably a better way to look at Lagavulin 12, Lagavulin 16, Lagavulin Distiller's Edition in regards to the amount of sherry influence, if that makes any sense to you. But this one, man, this Jazz, whew. Even meatier, richer. Old school sherry that reminds me of, not necessarily the current 25, but the old 21 from 2012, the 1991 vintage 21. It reminds me a lot of this one. Sadly, I've never been able to try the 21 that was bottled in 85, or excuse me, that was bottled in 07, which was the 85 vintage. I've heard that's even more sherry, but this is as sherried of a Lagavulin as I have ever smelled. And again, I have the 25 year. I have a few 21s, 22s, things of that nature. This one is really over the top, rich, old sherry wood, and it's very obvious on the nose. Oh, wow. All right, just quick thoughts here. I'd say on the nose, I'd give this roughly an 88 out of 100. I'd give this roughly a 90 out of 100, and I'd give this probably a 93 out of 100, just speaking strictly the nose. So as they go along, they're better or they progress progressively and get less as far as the nose, depending on how you're looking at it. All right, let's give everything a quick sip. We're going to go back to the 2018 version of the 18. For as soft as it is on the nose, man, there's a punch on the palate. Reminds me a lot of the 2018 Lagavulin Distillery Team pick. You can tell those bourbon casks are influencing a lot. You're getting vanillas along with that sooty smoke. Almost sometimes Lagavulin, once you get out of the sherry, it lets the smoke come through a little bit cleaner, so it's more of a clean ash smoke comparatively. But again, the vanillas, almost a twinge of caramel sweetness as well. Those American oak casks are definitely dominant in this one. Sherry is very, very light in this 2018. Again, very reminiscent of, say, the 2017 12-year-old as far as texture and layers and mouthfeel. Or, again, another way, if you've ever had the 2018 Distillery Team pick, it reminds me a lot of those two. All right, moving along to the 2016. Again, this is the 200th anniversary. Richer, fuller, definitely more sherried. There's still a good amount of American oak influence. You see, you're still getting vanilla. You're getting the light caramel note along with that smoke, that meaty, aristocratic Lagavulin smoke. But it's a little more balanced between the sherry cask maturation and the bourbon cask maturation. They kind of just are going hand in hand. If I'd say a split, I'd say it's more like 55% American oak notes and about 45% European sherry oak notes. Again, a little more balanced than this 2018, but a nice kind of middle ground between a heavily sherried Lagavulin and one that doesn't have hardly any sherry in it, which I believe this 2018 is very limited as far as its sherry influence. Finally, let's get into the taste of this 2013 Jazz 18-year-old. That is sherried. There is no mistaking. Heavily sherried, cask strength, well-aged Lagavulin. Wow. I said before, this was basically bourbon. This is about 55-45. This is 90% just sherry meatiness along with Lagavulin smoke. It's almost like liquid, sooty chimney smoke is the taste on that. And again, it almost comes in waves. You know, after you swallow, the flavors on the palate, just an absolute punch. I said before, what was it on the nose? 88, 90, 93. On the palate, it's hard to tell, and we'll get into them. I mean, Dustin and I will get into them more. You know, 87, 88 out of 100, I would say on this one. This one's a good 90 out of 100, I would say easily. Again, just speaking on the palate. This again, 92, 93 on the palate. This is a far superior whiskey to these other two, the 2013 Jazz Fest. Nose, palate, finish, man, this thing is a stunner comparatively, which is why I always like doing comparisons, because, you know, you can be impressed with a whiskey, but, you know, if you don't have it next to its peers or next to its other family members, you don't really, sometimes it's hard to remember back to exactly what a whiskey tasted like if you don't have them side by side. And this is an incredible one, I tell you what. One of my favorite whiskey reviews of all time is Liquor Hound. He did a couple of the 21s along with a Aurora 30, and he had all three of them back to back. And, you know, going back and forth, I could really tell he was figuring out, you know, what really the best whiskey was based on the comparison. And this is a very good way to look at all of these whiskeys, because it really shows you what a very good whiskey is compared to what a great whiskey is. And that's really what the difference is here. Now, I did throw a little bit of water into both of them, so let's see if that really changed much. With this 2018, not a ton. You're still getting a lot of the same notes. This 2018 leaves me wanting for more sherry influence. Still a lovely, lovely dram. I have a couple of bottles of this. It's a very good whiskey in overall experience. I mean, it's cask strength, it's meaty Lagavulin, it's smoky, it's ashy. It just leaves a little bit to be desired as far as the cask maturation, in my opinion, which I can say really after 2015, every specialty bottling that Lagavulin has put out, with the exception of the 25-year-old, has been a bit of a disappointment compared to what they were in, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15. Those ones seem to perform quite a bit better. But it's not that this isn't a fantastic effort. If you have a chance to go back and check out the live stream from Malt Muse and Telex, I think it posted end of February, or no, I'm sorry, that would be the 2nd of March here in 2021. So go ahead and check out, you know, if you don't mind watching live streams, go and check out what those guys' thoughts on this particular one was. And I've said it now 3 times, but Dustin and I will get to each one of these individually. But yeah, I mean, basically the same thing. Doesn't really change a ton as far as the nose. There's almost like more of a perfumey note, I would say, with a few drops of water here on the palate, but you know, still really nice whiskey. It does not exceed either one of these two, though. One more shot with the 2016. I tell you, with a few drops of water, this one actually made the sherry notes come out a little bit stronger. Wow, beautiful. There is just a beautiful balance of this 2016 between the wood differences. Even if they were similar woods, You can tell the cask they used with this one are far better. Or at least they, performed better, I should say. Yeah, the sherry's nice and thick and just juicy. Crisp vanilla. Candied caramel. Twinge of honey. On the second sip, the palate between these two, the 18 and the 16, isn't as wide as I initially thought. They're fairly similar on the palate, maybe only a point or so difference between these two. But on the nose, the 2016 really shines. Jazz Fest 2013, vintage 1995. Also the year I graduated high school. It's so much more hair. Rich, full sherry. Old school sherry. I tell you what, some Islay whiskeys I like with bourbon cask maturation only with just a twinge of sherry, like Lafroig. Actually, I prefer Ardbeg with bourbon cask maturation, but I'm telling you, Lagavulin with hardcore old school sherry maturation is just magic. This Jazz Fest is 2 to 3 points on nose and taste superior to the 16 and to the 18. Which is why I wanted to bring everyone this review. There are a lot of Lagavulin fans out there. There's a lot of us who really pine and search for these specialty Lagavulins. And if you're looking for a Lagavulin 18, do not make the mistake of thinking all of them are created equal. A chance to try any of these whiskeys. I'd like to know what you guys think. Also, if anyone's tried multiple versions of the 18, 2 or maybe all 3 of these, how close was I? Did I pretty much nail it? I think I nailed it. I've had these whiskeys for a while. I shared them with friends. Keith at the Malted Man Cave, of course, my buddy Dustin, as well as a couple bourbon guys. Jason from Mash and Drum comes over every once in a while, and I try to impress him with some of these Lagavulins because he's a bourbon guy, so I'm trying to help him out and bring him along. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on here. So just in conclusion, this 2013 Jazz Fest 18-year-old is an absolute stunner. 92, 93 out of 100 whiskey. The Lagavulin 2016 200th anniversary 18 is probably around the 90, 91-ish, to where this 2018 version of the 18-year-old, very nice try. I still would probably think this is probably more of an 87, 88, 89 overall, which is still a very good whiskey score. So if you're looking for them, understand there are different versions of them, and now you're a little bit better off as far as which one you should choose. Again, these are just my thoughts, and Justin and I will bring individual reviews where we'll focus a lot more on that particular whiskey. But until then, I want to thank you for once again joining for another whiskey review. Until next time, I wish you happy drinking.